Tonight, a summer camp alert
to prepare people so that they can get their vaccines ahead of time.
Over Ontario's measles outbreak, the messaging to families, and the response plan.
There's an immediate information sent to parents so that they are in the loop.
For the annual traditions. The bike shop closure.
This was a really difficult decision for our ownership group to make.
That's cutting deep.
You don't buy a motorcycle here. You become part of a family.
The end of the road for a Cambridge business. The local shout-out
Waterloo road trip, shorty see me and said,
from a worldwide star.
Well, ABBA did it first, but, now that Drake's picking up, I think, it's really catching on.
The new Drake track.
I think this is a return of some sort, a return to celebrating Canadianness, to highlighting Toronto and highlighting the GTA.
That's giving Waterloo a name drop. Good evening. We begin tonight with a message to parents from Waterloo Region's Public Health Department. They are urging those who may be sending their children to summer camp to prepare for potential measles exposures. CTV's Alexandra Hollick joins us now live with more on this. Alexandra, what do families need to know tonight?
Well, Tony, the main message from the region is to plan ahead. That could mean making sure your child's shots are up to date and their vaccination records are handy.
The kickoff to summer camp is just a couple weeks away, and excitement is in the air at the Waterloo Memorial Rec Complex.
There's a lot of excitement. There's also, some uncertainty.
Uncertainty over potential measles exposures. But the City of Waterloo says preparations are already underway.
Our initial efforts are focused sort of twofold. One is really focused on providing communication out to our families and campers around measles prevention. And the other one is sharing an update on some of the protocols.
Those protocols include isolating any campers or staff that may be at risk if there is an exposure. The isolation period will last 21 days, or until they provide proof they received 2 doses of the measles vaccine.
This isn't new messaging. What this really is continuation of messaging that we've done since the start of kind of the provincial outbreak and with our local partners, including schools.
Schools like Beechwood Brainery, a private school centered around students with disabilities that also offers day camp in the summer.
We have heightened our protocols and our training around signs and symptoms of outbreaks.
Like other camps in the region, Beechwood Brainery plans to work with the local public health unit to make sure people are protected and the show can go on.
The reason we got the messaging out now is to prepare people so that they can get their vaccines ahead of time going to camp or have their vaccine records ready, so that if we do find out there's an exposure, we can quickly find out who is at risk and who isn't and keep that camp running.
And if there is a measles case at camp,
we would set up a clinic as soon as possible in order to, any campers that needed it, if their parents consented, would be able to get that vaccine in a short period to allow the camp to continue.
And while camps say they're hopeful for a healthy summer, they appreciate the resources, even as they focus on having fun.
I think we'll be okay. It's definitely not something that we worry about, but we are prepared for.
The message from Regional Public Health comes at a time where cases seem to be slowing down, but officials say it's too early to tell if we've passed the peak. We'll need to wait a few weeks to find that out.
And Alexander, on that note, Public Health Ontario releasing some new numbers related to the measles outbreak earlier today. Waterloo Region seeing an increase in 21 cases this week, but those are actually not all new.
That's right, Tony. Waterloo Region Public Health clarifies that it is only reporting 1 new case in the last week. The other 20 included in today's update from the province are actually from May and have already been addressed. But they're being recorded now because they've been linked to the outbreak in Southern Ontario that is, of course, still ongoing. Tony.
All right, Alexandra Hollick reporting live. Thank you very much. Well, next, a developing story in Mississauga. A Toronto police officer has been rushed to hospital after a collision with a tractor trailer on the 403 late this afternoon. The officer was a member of the motorcycle squad and was on duty at the time of the crash. It happened around 3:15 in the westbound lanes of the 403 near Dundas. The officer was rushed to a trauma center. His injuries are considered non-life-threatening. A police source says the officer was caught under the tractor trailer. CTV News has learned the officer was taking part in a motorcade training exercise today. The westbound lanes of the 403 were closed at Dundas and are expected to remain that way for some time. An update to a story we brought you yesterday. 2 people have been arrested now in a series of thefts from vehicles in Waterloo. Regional police say there were 9 thefts in the Northdale area between mid-May and early June. The items stolen include cash, license plates, bank cards, and personal identification. A 29-year-old woman from Kitchener and a 36-year-old man from Cambridge now face 13 criminal charges. Police say the pair were held in custody for a bail hearing. Okay, time for a check on the weather. Let's head over to Alex Pinto in studio now with the latest. Alex, I'm going to just put this out there, but a bit of a hot take maybe, but I liked that breeze today, despite how gray and gloomy it was.
Not too bad. I think, you know, a breeze is nice, especially when we need a break from that humidity, right? So, and especially as we get into summer, which officially kicks off tomorrow. We kind of need it. We'll need those breaks, and especially as we look ahead to some days that we're going to see next week, we will definitely be wanting a bit of that breeze. But right now, we are seeing a bit of cloud cover still here in Kitchener-Waterloo, and yeah, to the point, we did see some stronger winds this afternoon. Some mixing in terms of overnight hours as well. We could see that's a chance for a little bit of active weather. Definitely not going to see that thunderstorm that we saw yesterday, but that doesn't mean we're not going to see another risk for a thunderstorm as we look ahead to tomorrow. We'll get into that a little bit later. Right now, we are sitting at 18 degrees here in Kitchener-Waterloo, 17 in London, 18 in Hamilton. The conditions and temperatures did drop as we went into the afternoon, and that breeze, as Tony noted, also got brought in. It is feeling closer to 21 here in Kitchener-Waterloo at this point. So overall, fairly comfortable out there, but those clouds are still pretty dark, and that wind expected to stick around. But coming up, we'll take a look at how the first day of summer is looking and when we will see a bit of sunshine. Tony.
All right, Alex, thank you so much. We'll see you soon for the rest of those details. Dozens of stolen credit and debit cards and more than $500,000 in total losses to unsuspecting riders. All of it the result of an alleged taxi scam. Toronto police showed off the results of a crackdown today, and CTV's Mike Walker brings us details.
Luxury clothing, diamond-encrusted jewelry and watches and art, all bought with stolen credit and debit cards by suspects who police say posed as taxi drivers.
We're alleging these fraudsters scammed Toronto taxi customers out of over $500,000 in a 10-month time frame.
Toronto police launched Project Fair last July and discovered a criminal network that they say defrauded more than 300 victims. Investigators say the suspects would use vehicles that were modified to look like licensed taxis with signs like this one, or vehicles that once were cabs. And they would only accept debit or credit when it was time to pay the fare. That's when police say the suspects would discreetly swap the victims' credit and debit cards.
Sometimes the POS machine won't work. They'll then have their card in the machine, and the taxi driver will say, "Let me try." And then they'll put in the card, the PIN number, or they'll do something like that where they've got control of that card.
The stolen cards and PINs then passed on to an accomplice.
To withdraw funds from ATMs, deposit fraudulent checks to artificially inflate account balances, and make high-value purchases.
Police say the bogus taxi drivers would target busy areas like theaters and the entertainment district. Some of the victims were defrauded of thousands of dollars.
We had 3 occurrences where there were over $60,000 taken in a very short period of time, overnight, often before the victim would even wake up in the morning.
In May, police executed 3 search warrants and seized handheld debit and credit terminals and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of luxury items.
We believe that they were purchasing it for themselves, for trophies.
So far, police have arrested 11 suspects who are facing a combined 108 charges. These 2 suspects remain at large. Police are trying to identify them, along with this woman who is a person of interest, seen with one of the outstanding suspects at an ATM.
She's not a suspect. She's merely someone who we hope can help us.
Investigators say the victims are not on the hook and have been made whole by their financial institutions. They believe there are more victims who haven't come forward.
That story from CTV's Mike Walker. A public apology today from the Premier as he met with First Nations leaders at Queen's Park. The deputy leader of the NDP said comments that Doug Ford made yesterday were racist and showed a lack of understanding. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the latest.
Dozens of chiefs from the Anishinaabe First Nation came to Queen's Park to meet with the Premier. It's a sit-down that began with an "I'm sorry" behind closed doors and again in front of cameras.
I just want to say I sincerely apologize for my words, not only if it hurt all the chiefs in that room, but all First Nations.
That was just over 24 hours after Doug Ford made comments that have been condemned by Indigenous leaders as racist, dangerous.
You can't just keep coming hat in hand all the time to the government. You got to be able to take care of yourselves.
Ontario's only First Nations MPP had called on the Premier to apologize.
He's calling First Nations beggars. That's not the way we create relationships.
Now, having sat with Doug Ford,
our chiefs felt today that the apology was sincere. We are looking at today as a new day.
The Anishinaabe Nation and the 39 First Nations it represents is opposed to Bill 5, which aims to speed up mining in the Ring of Fire. Their Grand Chief says they came into this meeting with suggestions, solutions.
The Premier has made certain commitments that we're not going to speak to today. We do have to respect our nations who weren't in the room today to have those further discussions.
Ford has said his goal is to designate the mineral-rich Ring of Fire a special economic zone where some laws can be ignored as quickly as possible.
This meeting in particular wasn't all about Bill 5. It was about Ontario upholding their treaty responsibility.
The Premier emphasizes the need for collaboration.
I'll always respect treaty rights, and I'll always respect duty to consult, because without First Nations, we can't get the critical minerals out of the ground.
Something the government feels is key to Ontario's prosperity going forward.
That story from CTV's Siobhan Morris at Queen's Park. After meeting with his National Security Council, the U.S. President Donald Trump now says a decision on whether the U.S. will strike Iran will come in the next 2 weeks. The president has reviewed possible attack plans, but is holding for now. CTV's Joy Malbin monitoring the situation in Washington.
Overnight, a violent attack on an Israeli hospital, the war raging on as the Israeli army intensifies its strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities. The U.S. president weighing the risk of America joining Israel's war.
Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, he will make that decision within the next 2 weeks.
The White House says Iran has been weakened, and with a diplomatic off-ramp possible, the president, after reviewing U.S. attack plans, holding off for now. Pre-positioning aircraft carriers and strike groups in the region, even stocking up on blood supplies. Israel has damaged most of Iran's nuclear facilities, but top of its target list is Iran's Fordo uranium enrichment facility, buried deep underground. Only the U.S. has the stealth bombers needed to carry the 30,000-pound bombs that could destroy it. Israel's prime minister pressuring the president.
He gave them the chance to do it through negotiations. They strung him along. You don't string along Donald Trump.
With the specter of the Iraq war hanging over the president's decision, is causing deep divisions among Trump's supporters.
If you're calling for toppling in government, it's incumbent on you to know something about the country and to think through the consequences of that. And you haven't, and you don't. And I'm saying that's reckless.
I haven't thought, okay, you engage in reckless rhetoric.
Conservative Tucker Carlson and Congressman Ted Cruz in an explosive shouting match, with Democrats warning.
And if there's one thing we know, it's a hell of a lot easier to start a war in the Middle East than it is to end one. And I have no idea what this administration's plan is going forward.
The president has reviewed possible attack plans, but with the chance at substantial negotiation, the president is buying time, stepping back to see what Israel can do, but holding out the option of U.S. military action. Joy Malbin, CTV News, Washington.
Okay, and on another note now related to the conflict, Ottawa announced today it will help Canadians in Israel and Iran fly home, though the path to safety will not be a straight one. CTV's Adrian Gobriel has more on what this means for Canadians caught up in the war.
With the toll of this war expanding with each passing day, Minister Anita Anand shared this statement today, saying in part that Canada is extremely concerned with the quickly evolving conflict, adding that additional consular services are being sent to Israel, the West Bank, Jordan, Turkey, and Armenia. CTV News has spoken with multiple Canadians caught in both Iran and Israel this week. Up until today, Canadians trying to leave Israel have received this message through a Canadian government emergency WhatsApp account that in part reads, "You should not depend on the government of Canada to help you leave the country." For Iranian Canadians with loved ones trying to get home, their dire situation has been made even worse due to internet and cell outages across the country.
I have only the luggage I have here in Canada, and that's it. I have nothing else.
Hila Fakliru is a survivor of the October 7th Nova Music Festival massacre, where she was working as a bartender.
This is the bar where you were working on October 7th.
Fakliru arrived in Toronto nearly 3 weeks ago as a guest at Toronto's Nova exhibition. Then the war with Iran began, and her flight was cancelled. Then she received more shocking news.
Last Sunday, while I was here, an Iranian ballistic missile hit my home. I have nothing left.
You've nearly been killed twice during these conflicts.
For me, I have a guardian angel. I know that someone put me here for a reason. People are killing each other. And in the end, we didn't choose to be in a war.
After surviving the October 7th attack, her apartment now destroyed, Fakliru is still calling for peace for Palestinians, Israelis, and Iranians. Like so many, she simply wants to go home and put the pieces back together. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
And stay connected with us through the CTV Kitchener newsletter. A reminder that you can get the best local content from our newsroom right to your email inbox first thing in the morning every day. We've got a recap of the day's top stories, a look at the latest forecast, and we've put some must-see videos for you on there as well. You can sign up over at ctvnewskitchener.ca. What's in a name? Well, if it's a name being dropped by a worldwide music star, a lot of exposure. Waterloo is the name we're talking about in this case, and Drake is the star. CTV's Spencer Turcotte will tie this all together for us in just a moment.
Oh, cloudy conditions with a chance for some more showers. But coming up, we'll take a closer look at some of the rainfall totals following yesterday's storm.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
We go to a dramatic scene unfolding.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVKitchener.ca, your home for news.
He's well known for his love of Toronto and for referencing the GTA in his songs, which are some of the most streamed worldwide. But now, Grammy-winning artist Drake is giving Waterloo a lyrical nod. CTV's Spencer Turcotte breaks it down.
I remember pushing DT with a man and whipping two Mazdas.
Drake and Toronto rapper Smiley released a new track titled Too Mazza. It means too crazy in Toronto slang. Perhaps Waterloo Mayor's reaction to hearing her city mentioned in the song.
Well, you know, ABBA did it first, but you know, now that Drake's picking up, I think it's really catching on.
A little tongue-in-cheek, knowing ABBA wasn't referring to this Waterloo. Mayor McCabe is taking the opportunity, though, to sell Drake on the city.
Drake, I'd be happy to give him a tour of our city, or even on the LRT.
Or how about settling down here?
If Drake and his family want to come, I'd be happy to give him a tour of our neighborhoods.
And you can't forget the festivals fit for great performances.
We also have like a phenomenal summer lineup and year-long lineup of festivals and events.
Draketoberfest does have a ring to it, but getting the music megastar and some lederhosen may take some convincing. One Wilfrid Laurier University professor who has taught a course on Drake is looking at the deeper meaning of Waterloo's mention.
And I've taught it about 5 or 6 times now. I keep wondering if that'll be the last time I teach it, and then something else happens that makes me think I should reprise the course.
Now may be the time, considering Drake also references other Ontario cities.
I'm in Barrie, Muskoka, and Brampton.
I think this is a return of some sort, a return to celebrating Canadianness, to highlighting Toronto and highlighting the GTA.
Alexander Boutros says it comes at a good time, especially on the heels of Kendrick Lamar's tour stops at Toronto's Rogers Centre. The rappers have been feuding, and she's sees this as a chess move of sorts for Drake to reclaim his roots and fans.
I think all of this is part of a larger move by Drake to recapture and retool his reputation, and particularly his reputation in relation to Canada.
Going as far as calling former NDP leader Jagmeet Singh a goof for appearing at the Kendrick concert. So Waterloo can consider itself lucky that its mention is part of a shout-out rather than a diss track. Spencer Turcott, CTV News, Waterloo.
We've heard of young adults struggling to buy a home in today's real estate market, but some realtors are also starting to notice shifts on how younger people are finding ways to make the purchase, changing their expectations and reshaping the market along the way. CTV's Bob Belichico has that story from Windsor.
You got to get up off your butt and you got to work out a plan.
Jacob Bowe has heard his generation is facing an uphill battle when it comes to home ownership, but he doesn't agree.
You got to get out of that mindset, and I know it's really cliche to say and like easy to say, but yeah, it takes hard work.
Bowe got into the trades in high school and started making money. At 20, he bought his first house.
I got that house and I fixed it up. I lived in it for a little bit over a year, and then I flipped that house. And then once I flipped that house, I was able to purchase a better house for me to be more comfortable in.
He plans to build equity in that house.
And now I'm working towards saving up a little bit of money again so then I can get another house and then get into some passive income so that I can grow what I desire, which would be having generational wealth.
Realtor Reese Trenhill says Bowe is not alone. More young people are getting involved in the real estate market.
It's a new group. It's a new vibe.
Trenhill says young investors are looking at adding an extra unit in the basement to rent out.
They're getting it done, and they're finding different ways of getting it done in a way that I didn't see the youth attacking this and getting home ownership, say, 5 years ago.
The number of monthly listings is up roughly 10% over this time last year. There are currently 2,600 listings in Windsor, Essex. Trenhill says the number is going up as more baby boomers downsize. He points out wages have increased, housing prices have flatlined, and interest rates have gone down, opening the door to young upstarts.
And that wasn't happening 2 months ago. So now they're getting really busy again, and to us, that's a lead measure as real estate agents. That's a lead measure of about 30 to 60 days to know that we're going to be busy.
Bob Belichico, CTV News.
Okay, live we go outside now to downtown Kitchener, Charles and Queen, that area to be specific. A really dreary kind of gray day. Bit of a breeze throughout the day and some rain here and there. So what does the weekend look like? Alex Pinto's back in just a couple of moments to set things up for us. Also coming up, the school sale that's doubling as a life lesson. We'll meet some 8th graders in Kitchener who've come together in an enterprising effort to help support a critical social need in their community. Next, though, the Prime Minister says Canada will hit back with higher tariffs for the U.S. on steel and aluminum. An update on the latest twist in the trade war.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400. From your screen to ours. Text 10400.
All right, Alex is back with us for a look at our forecast. I'm just going to say right now, you called it yesterday.
I did. Wasn't wrong.
And I'll tell you, when I left here at midnight last night, it was the break in between two rainstorms. As soon as I got into my car, drove home, it was a downpour on the expressway just after midnight. So 1, 2, and hoping these things don't happen in 3s.
Hopefully not. We're going to say hopeful.
We've got our share of rain now.
We have our share of rain.
Yeah.
We might be in for a little bit more rain before we're going to see that sun, especially I know tomorrow being the first official day of summer too.
Yes.
It's not really what we want to hear, but I don't want to say I promise, but I'm hopeful that it gets better.
It does look a little unsettled out there right now. It's kind of had that feel in the air
just
all
a little
day
bit.
where, you know, you didn't know if you were going to need to dodge the rain.
Exactly. And like you said, it's a little bit, you know, dark, a little gloomy. We saw some strong winds as well, too, out there this afternoon. I can't really tell. Well, it looks like that wind's still blowing as well as we take a live look from outside this hour. And Yeah, similar conditions expected to stick around as we get into the overnight and potentially as we get into tomorrow as well. But I first want to start by some rainfall totals. So yeah, if you were pretty much anywhere in southwestern Ontario, you would have seen that thunderstorm. We saw some areas seeing a little bit more rainfall than others. So Cambridge, according to Environment Canada, just shy of 36 millimeters of rain from that storm yesterday. Woodstock, 42.4 millimeters, and Windsor seeing 39.9 millimeters of rain. Now, these are just initial reporting, so not 100% confirmed at this point, but this is what Environment Canada is putting out. Nothing for Kitchener in terms of getting that recording at this point, but we're going to keep an eye just to see how much rain we did see. When we look at our futurecast, yeah, potentially seeing a little bit more rain as we get closer to 7 o'clock this evening, but then that's expected to clear. We could see some more cloud cover move in before some more scattered showers for the rest of the evening. So on and off and getting into the overnight into tomorrow as well. Again, not ideal for the first official day of summer. I know many of us probably wanted to see a little bit more sunshine, but there is also a chance to note another risk of a thunderstorm for tomorrow in the afternoon. So again, I'm going to keep an eye on that. Hopefully things change as we get into tomorrow. Now, 30% chance of showers. That's what we're going to be expected to see for tomorrow. When we look at our almanac for today, the high of expected high 21, low as we get into the overnight hours 14 degrees. So normal for this time, we're just a few degrees off, so about 24 degrees. And yeah, we hit 35. That was in 1995 for our record high. Record low 4.2 degrees. That was in 2004. Sunrise and sunset. Wouldn't necessarily have seen it today with all that cloud cover we saw, but we did gain one more minute. 9:06 p.m. is when the sun is now setting. So yeah, it's really feeling more like summer. Overnight, pardon me, I mentioned it was 30%. It's going to be actually 40 as we get into the overnight hours, so the chance of showers or drizzle. And then tomorrow, again, the risk of that thunderstorm for the afternoon, 30% chance of showers with an expected high of 24 degrees. Looking at our 7-day forecast, cloudy conditions now for your Saturday. Yesterday, I believe it was nice and sunny. But it's okay because Sunday looks pretty nice. A high of 33 degrees, sunny conditions, and hopefully that sun is sticking around as we kick off our work week as well. But note, we are going to potentially see that multi-day heat event starting on Sunday right through to Wednesday. So definitely want to stay hydrated and cool as well. Lambton, Kenton, Essex, similar conditions for your weekend. Nice sunny conditions. And here is today's Weather Watcher picture. Paul Richards sent us this shot of a gray heron. Paul says this guy has been patrolling the shoreline along South Georgian Bay and was even posing for photos. So thank you for the submission. A beautiful shot. I love that. I hope the heron was posing for photos. That's kind of fun.
We've had a lot of majestic bird photos lately. Seems to have been a little bit of a theme.
A lot. And herons, I feel like, in particular. And I've even seen more, I feel like, out there as well. So
I think so, too.
Definitely very photogenic. Beautiful shots.
They're enjoying the weather just like we are. Okay.
Sure.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, Prime Minister Mark Carney is making some tweaks to his counter-tariff strategy. Changes, the government says, reflect progress made in negotiations with the U.S. CTV's Mike Le Couture breaks down the changes and what they mean.
While the Prime Minister and his team continue to negotiate the removal of all U.S. tariffs, the Canadian government is taking steps to protect our steel and aluminum industries. Mark Carney announced if Canada doesn't get a trade deal with the U.S. within 30 days, our country will slap a new wave of counter-tariffs on American products. On July 21st, the plan is to adjust the level of tariffs to reflect the progress that's been made at the negotiating table. You'll remember back in March, U.S. President Donald Trump imposed a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum coming from Canada, and then he doubled it earlier this month. Carney also announced a larger Buy Canadian plan for federal procurement that would require steel and aluminum. The Prime Minister said he wants to maximize the use of our own materials in government-funded projects, including at the provincial and territorial level. There will also be an anti-dumping measure with 100% tariffs on steel from non-free trade partners. The Prime Minister says there is a deadline for a deal with the U.S., but he won't be pressured into signing one.
We're willing to sign a security and economic or commercial agreement with the United States that's in Canada's best interest, and only that. So that's the negotiation. That there is still some room to travel, so to speak, before we get to that point. But we have a deadline in order to achieve that. And if it's in Canada's interest, we'll sign it. If it's not, we won't.
With the 30-day deadline for a deal now looming, the minister responsible for trade with the U.S. told reporters he had meetings with his U.S. counterparts at the G7 in Kananaskis, and Dominic LeBlanc will have another meeting tomorrow. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
A motorcycle mainstay in Cambridge is riding off into the sunset. Coming up, the closure of one of the last remaining independent Harley dealerships and the legacy of loyalty it leaves. Well, some sad news for Harley-Davidson enthusiasts in the area. The Blackbridge dealership in Cambridge has announced they're closing at the end of the month. It's one of the last remaining independent dealers in the area. CTV's Karis Mapp learns more about their legacy and the loyalty they've built.
Revving up for a final farewell. The team at Blackbridge Harley-Davidson in Cambridge announcing they're powering down engines and shutting their doors for good.
And this was a really difficult decision for our ownership group to make, and there's a myriad of reasons for that, primarily economic conditions.
Choosing to divest from the company amid financial pressures.
But at the end of the day, this is a luxury brand and times are hard, and it's really hard to make that investment at the same levels that we had in maybe coming out of COVID and previous economic factors.
Merchandise, parts, and services, Blackbridge proving to be a one-stop shop for bikers all around.
They're here to get the customer happy and get them exactly what they want. It's not just pushing a product out the door.
Employees reminiscing about representing an iconic brand.
There's such a beautiful brotherhood or sisterhood, familiarity to being a rider, regardless of your age, your gender, your ethnicity, your experience level.
The physical pieces can always be replaced elsewhere, but there's a sense of community that longtime customers say they fear they'll never be able to find again.
I don't really expect to fill that gap. I'll fill it on the road with people I run into, but I don't expect to fill it with a dealership. You don't buy a motorcycle here. You become part of a family.
Cam, one of the mechanics here, somehow we struck up a friendship, and they knew that I liked this place, and I've stuck here. He's the only guy who's worked on my bike, and that's a nice trust.
One of the few remaining independent dealerships, Blackbridge also focused on charity efforts such as Ride for Dad. The location even welcomed actor Jason Momoa as a customer. He borrowed a bike while filming a movie in Toronto. And this isn't the only Southwestern store closing. Rockies in London announced it too will be wrapping up operations at the end of the month after 70 years.
We're very disappointed to see Rockies close as well. I don't think we're the only ones experiencing this level of financial difficulties. I'm sure that those considerations have been made in other dealerships in Canada and across the U.S.
Both locations will remain open until June 30th on an appointment-only basis. Regular customers preparing to say goodbye.
I come in here once a week just to drop off eggs from my farm, just to give to people.
If I'm close by and I want to stretch my legs and get a coffee, I'll stop in and say hi. No other place is like that to me.
Karis Mapp, CTV News, Cambridge.
There's a neighborhood meeting tonight over a proposal to include a crematorium in a funeral home coming to Kitchener. Urban Good is looking at modifying a building that formerly housed a Home Hardware on Victoria Street North between River Road East and Frederick Street. While the property is already zoned for a funeral home, they are looking at including 3 human cremation units in the facility, a change that requires a zoning bylaw amendment. A neighborhood meeting is scheduled for tonight where people can ask questions or provide comments on the proposal. It'll be held on Zoom. It won't come as news to Canadians that flying in this country can be expensive with few options. And a new report backs that up, saying more competition's needed in the industry to bring prices down. CTV's Abigail Beeman reports.
If you've bemoaned that it's cheaper to fly to Europe than visit family in Canada, you're not alone. A new report from the Competition Bureau found that's a common complaint, along with limited options, high prices, and bad service. Also not surprising, the ownership snapshot in 2023, with Air Canada and WestJet holding the majority of market share. And contributing to high ticket prices, user fees accounting for 30 cents of every dollar.
If we can pull those fees out, it gives a lot of room for margin for even these discount players to expand more than they have been already.
The report makes 10 recommendations to fix the problems, calling on the government to prioritize competition in policy, support northern and remote access, and leverage international capital and experience. That means allowing foreign-owned carriers to fly domestic routes and getting rid of restrictions on foreign ownership.
We are focused on competition and measures to increase competition for the Canadian marketplace. And unquestionably, foreign investment plays a key role here.
You're opening up Pandora's box.
Some are concerned foreign carriers would harm the market by only going after high traffic routes, leaving smaller communities underserviced.
Don't expect to see, a United Airlines showing up in Yarmouth or a Singapore Airlines showing up in North Bay. Not going to happen.
The Transportation Minister's office tells CTV News they are reviewing the report carefully and acknowledge Canadians want affordable air travel, but won't say whether they're considering making any changes to foreign ownership rules. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
And time to recap our top stories. We welcome CTV's Leanne Evans back to the studio. First of all, great to have you back again. I know you're going to be back sort of here and there over the next little while before you're back full time, but we are all delighted to have you back, Leanne.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. I'm very happy to be back, and thank you to everyone who sent a nice message while I was off. So happy to be back and hit the ground running.
Perfect. And let's get into our top stories now. First thing tonight is a public health message to parents about potential measles exposures at summer camps.
Right, it's that time of year. Okay, so parents are urged by public health to be prepared to handle potential measles exposures. If they are sending their kids to summer camp, they should plan ahead. Officials say parents should make sure their child's shots are up to date and to have their vaccination records handy. Protocols are also now in place at summer camps if there does happen to be an exposure. Premier Doug Ford issued an apology today for comments that were slammed as, quote, racist by First Nations leaders ahead of a meeting regarding a controversial bill that could impact development across Northern Ontario. Ford said the province was making an offer to First Nations, quote, on a silver platter, and that he had treated them, quote, like gold. Today, after meeting with leaders for 2 hours, Ford apologized for his words and the hurt that it may have caused. Tony.
And Leanne, on our website, our digital team has a story up about a recreation center in Ingersoll that's been hitting a roadblock.
Yeah, the town was actually unable to get provincial funding for its long-awaited multi-use recreation center. The $38 million project has been in the works since 2019, but an application to the Ministry of Sport was not approved. You can read more about this story on our website. Scan the QR code in the bottom corner of your screen. Download the CTV News app, or as always, it is CTV News Kitchener.ca for that story and many more. Tony.
Okay, Leanne Evans with us. Thank you very much, Leanne.
Thank you.
And coming up next, our CTV News investigation into how stolen vehicles are ending up on sales lots reveals a new twist. How a W5 investigation found employees at an Ontario government agency have been involved in the scheme. John Woodward's series continues next. A W5 investigation is shedding light on how some employees of Service Ontario, the agency that registers cars in the province, are helping thieves to steal them. CTV's John Woodward reveals how criminals working in provincial licensing systems might be a problem right across Canada.
This is surveillance video of a driveway east of Toronto in 2021. It's almost 2 a.m. You can see the 5 men climb the stairs of the home. They demand a resident's car keys and fire a gun into the ground. They made off with a $400,000 Bentley in the driveway. The hunt for the thieves led investigators to a company here in Sudbury, Ontario. That business was registering cars, even though an OPP report filed in court said officers concluded this business does not exist. Some of those cars discovered on this lot just north of Toronto, belonging to another company called Prexco. Visitors weren't exactly welcome, but we went there anyway, looking for Presco's director, Eric Johnson.
We're looking for Eric Johnson?
We got someone on the phone, but he didn't have much to say.
Okay, listen, man, I don't have time for this.
After the police visited the same property in 2022, recording this video, they accused Johnson of being the mastermind of a scheme to disguise stolen cars from Land Rovers to Porsches, changing their unique vehicle identification numbers so he could sell them. And he had help. Police believed he was working with a clerk at this Brampton Service Ontario, someone he called My Girl in wiretaps, who bragged she could stop toll highway bills from ever making it to the driver.
Let's say, for example, you're on 407 and you don't pay the bills, and they'll never come back to you.
The clerk, a woman named Tanisha Baird. Among the vehicles she registered with Johnson was one for her to drive, an Audi Q3 SUV that was worth about $46,000 new. She paid just $162 in fees. It was the vehicle she was driving when she was arrested. She and Johnson convicted in March, with a judge describing her as a car thief too. We caught up with Johnson himself outside the Brampton courthouse.
Mr. Johnson, John Woodward from CTV. We can stay back. That's fine. We just wanted to see if Mr. Johnson had anything to say for himself. We just wanted to see if he had anything to say, Mr. Johnson, about what's happening. Are you a car thief, sir?
No, your mama is.
Investigators are exploring whether someone on the inside, like Baird, arranged paperwork for any possibly stolen vehicles at a Scarborough dealership, whose salespeople are also facing charges. Cases like this, where a criminal uses someone on the inside of a government agency, could be happening a lot more than we know, said Mike Fair, who used to work for the Edmonton Police's Alert Car Theft Unit.
How widespread is something like that across the country?
I would say that it's all across the country.
What tells you that?
We have stolen vehicles that travel across the country continually. It's mobile.
Ontario's Minister of Transportation says his province has introduced changes that he hopes will make it harder for anyone to illegally re-VIN a car.
For us, it's about making sure that we punish those who do take part in this, create deterrences through legislation.
Johnson and Baird are awaiting sentencing, the judge saying their crimes provide the financial incentive for the violence in thefts like this.
New reporting from W5's John Woodward. Okay, over to Alex now for a preview of Wake Up Weather.
Well, still seeing a bit of cloud cover out there with the chance of showers sticking with us as we get into the overnight hours. We'll see how your morning is looking coming up. We'll get caught up with all the latest entertainment news tonight at 7 o'clock with E-Talk, followed by The Big Bang Theory at 7:30, then Transplant at 8 o'clock, followed by Good Cop, Bad Cop, and then more Big Bang Theory.
Bounce 99.5 has the music you just can't quit. Home of Bounce Mornings with Angie Hill and Sarge. KW's Bounce 99.5. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app.
We're going to check in one more time with Leanne Evans for a look at what our team is following for 11:30 tonight. Leanne.
Well, Tony, we will be following that virtual neighborhood meeting tonight. The discussion surrounds a proposal to include a crematorium in a funeral home coming to Kitchener. Urban Good is looking at modifying a building on Victoria Street North between River Road East and Frederick Street. It is zoned for a funeral home, but the proposal includes 3 human cremation units, which requires a zoning bylaw amendment. So we'll bring you details on that at 11:30. Tony.
All right, Leanne, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Wow, Leanne Evans, Alex Pinto, reunited. I've been so good. Exactly. I'm so fortunate to be back with 2 of my favorites as we're all back together again tonight. Just feels good, doesn't it?
It does. And we were saying, like, our heart just so full.
Yeah.
It's like a full circle moment.
It's a good day at CTV.
Yes.
It's not a great day weather-wise.
No.
Mother Nature not doing us any favors with this indecision that's going on out there.
Especially the last couple days. And like we saw, well, at least the weekend, we're potentially going to see that nice sunny sky for Sunday, but we still got to get through maybe a bit more cloud cover and chance for some showers. So the morning, though, not looking too bad. 6 a.m., 15, mainly sunny conditions. Similar conditions right through to 10 and a high, and 21 degrees rather, not a high of 21, 21 we should hit with a mix of sun and cloud as well. So not too bad for your morning.
Nice, comfortable start.
Yes.
I love it. Okay, let's keep the good feels going. zone, because finally for us tonight, students at a public school in Kitchener are stepping up to help their neighbors in need. The 8th graders at Grow spent weeks researching different struggles that their community is facing.
In the end, they decided to support the House of Friendship by hosting a community garage sale, and we stopped by to check it out earlier today.
We spent months doing research and building empathy and talking to other organizations about what other students were struggling with. And we learned about issues like food insecurities, not having enough clothing and school supplies, and how important it is to feel like you belong here. After we understood the needs of what people are struggling with, we came up with 100 ideas and landed with garage sale.
Get that ready, open it up. Well, we went into classes and then asked kids to ask their parents to donate stuff that they didn't need anymore, so then we can give it out to people who might want or need some of the items here. The money goes to the charities, so we're going to donate to House of Friendship.
We set up posters, we set up tables, we organized everything. We made a Grow Garage sale like poster, and this is like out to the whole community in this region.
There's like CDs, clothing, books, shoes, sports equipment, toys as well.
You guys can keep the change.
It feels great, you know, because some people, you know, don't have this stuff.
It makes me feel good, especially because we were able to put this together in like a very short amount of time. So I'm pretty like amazed of how much we were able to accomplish, and I feel really happy that a bunch of people are gonna have a lot of good memories with these toys.
The leaders of tomorrow,
Grow
Public School. Well done, guys.
So great.
We'll see you tonight at 11:30. Have a great evening.